Joe, do you still believe that there will be blue-collar storytellers, or have they already arrived?
I think they're already here. I think that it's because whatever everything that's gone on online. There is not, when there were less movies being made, they were worth more money for everybody, and there were also less jobs for everybody. There's never been more acting jobs in the history of everything than right now. There's never been more writing jobs than right now. There's never been more directing jobs than right now. There's never been this much stuff made. So I think there's a ton of opportunities, in the industry because there's so much being made, and when there's so much being made, it's mass is inherently blue collar. It's not white collar in that white collar like directors. Directors are sort of the white collar worker. When there's 50 of them, now it's just a bunch of people who direct stuff. So when you have all the TV shows, all the films, all the stuff that's online, add up all those jobs, add up all that, again, the guest star Emmy consideration performance number was 2,800 and something. So there were that many performances to consider. So when you're in the thousands, just for an Emmy consideration, just to get the nomination, and that is only getting bigger. The star system, there's not going to be the star directors. There's going to be like a billion sort of smaller known directors, but I don't think there's going to be, a Martin Scorsese. I think there's going to be less of that because there's so much stuff. I think, there will be voices that will be, distinct and original and different, and there'll probably be more of those voices because more stuff's being made. But because it's just like bird's eye view. In the 70s, you made a movie, that's what people did. There was nothing else to do. You went to the movies, or you watched one of 3 networks, or you read a book, read a magazine, went for a walk. That was it. Now I can sit home and watch the history of film on YouTube if I want. It is ridiculous how much stuff is online. So saturation naturally displaces special. So special is stars and that kind of thing. Blue collar is like, there's a ton of people doing these jobs now. So to be famous, to be a star, I don't know. There's famous people, but there's also a lot of famous people we don't know because we don't watch that show. And the show's been on for 9 years, but still, I've never watched Big Bang Theory. Still haven't seen it. No idea. Don't care.
And just like there's sort of this middle class squeeze, especially as we've, last few years in the US, do you think it's the same with artists? There's the blue collar artists, and there's a whole bunch of blue collar artists, and then there's the white collar ones, and very little middle class? Or I'm just making this up?
I think it would be more like middle and then upper. Like I sort of feel like if you're working in the industry and making a living, most of the people who work on stuff are not. Again, it's a temp gig. It's a temp gig. And then when that temp gig ends, you got to get another temp gig so you can pay the mortgage. And if you don't get another temp gig, and then you don't get another temp gig after that, and then months go by, then that's a problem. But I think there's going to be less stars, more famous people, not as famous. Because I've never seen this many actors in my life. I've never, even off the top of my head, even knowing, just think of just the TV shows and movies you've seen in the last year, so much more than what would have been watched in previous years, because the delivery system is the internet. It's what everyone else is doing. It becomes habit. Then we're talking about it online. It becomes behavior. And that was the thing when you were trying to get people to change their behavior from watching a TV show at a certain time on a certain day, and then you were changing their behavior by, here's the entire season, watch it. And then that behavior changed. Like 10 years ago, all the web series people were saying, oh yeah, 5 minutes is too long. 5 minutes is way too long. No one's gonna watch 5 minutes. No one has time to watch 5 minutes. You're an idiot if you're making something. It should be 3 minutes. That's much time people have. And they were all wrong. Yeah, some people want to watch 3 minutes, but in terms of like an overarching philosophy on human behavior, no, wrong. What human beings will do is sit down and watch 12 hours of television because it's brand new and they want to be able to talk about Stranger Things at the office on Monday. New behavior.
So remind me again what a blue-collar artist is, the blue-collar screenwriter, blue-collar director.
I guess a blue-collar is less known, less,
More scrappy?
Not necessarily scrappy. I think it's literally just from saturation. Because in the 70s, if you had the number of movies that came out in a year and the number of TV shows that came out in 1975, and you added them all up, and now everything that came out in 2018, and you added them all up, it would be a skyscraper and be a little two-story building. Here's 1975, here's now. All these movies and TV shows and actors. So when you have this much, I'm a director. Really, what did you direct? Well, there's only this much, because it's 1975, it's not that hard. Oh, you directed something? What did you direct? Everybody, there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to. When there's a lot, it becomes less special, less valuable, less. It becomes less because there's so much. You don't feel like it's like the kid who has one toy, and the kid loves that toy because the kid only has one toy. And then there's the kid who's got aunts and uncles who has been burying that kid in every toy. That kid's got every toy. None of them are special because there's a million of them. You only have that one that's special. So when you have, a handful of people who are allowed to make movies, and now it's a bigger pile of people. There's way more, and it's less precious. It's less special. Honestly, no one gives a fuck about the Oscars. Not that they really gave a fuck that much before, but if you look at the reality of box office, Oscars are not catering to the public. They are catering to the Academy.
When the streaker came by, that was kind of
well, that was too, yeah. But they were streakers.
Yeah.
But that idea of, it's an Oscar-winning special, it's scarcity. There isn't that scarcity. So if it's not scarce, if it's not special, if there's so much, then it turns into blue collar. It turns into, a lot of people are doing this at the factory. They're all making these things. So, blue collar, and they may make a living that is white collar. They may, their job may be, maybe they're not dragging cables around and that kind of thing. Maybe they're doing something, nicer, but it's less special. And I think it's good that that happened. I think it will make the industry better.
What about if people say, well, why should I bother? I'm not going to stand out. Is standing out an archaic concept?
I think if standing out your goal, then...
Or my project's not going to stand out.
Well, sometimes good projects get buried. It's really hard to control the world and what you're doing. Again, the movie was recently buried because of all the mass shootings, because they knew marketing-wise that was a bad move. If you can, as a filmmaker, storyteller, artist, whatever it is that you create, if you can find 5 people who like what you do and you talk to them on a regular basis and they tell other people about what you do, then that audience grows, and it grows naturally, it grows organically, it grows slowly. And the quality of that group of individuals who knows who you are, that changes, I think, what you make, and I think it changes you because you know kind of who it is that's going to be looking at your stuff, because you talk to them on a regular basis. Like, I know stuff about people, and people are going through stuff, and they're internet neighbors. You know, I know more people online than I do offline, way more. They're all over the place. But it's, and you know, the we're all famous to a few people thing is the reality of saturation. Is how many people does it take for you to be famous? How many people have to know who you are to be famous? The weatherman in Minneapolis is very famous in Minneapolis. He's going to walk into an Applebee's and everybody's going to go, the weatherman's here. That guy shows up in here, nobody gives a shit. They don't know who he is because he's famous in that little group, that little silo. It's like the huge band in the UK right now that none of us know because we're not in the UK, but they're huge over there.
Wolf Alice?
I don't know, but that's what I mean. There's always one.
Yeah.
The little silos, you know, all the Korean K-pop stuff, all that.
That's
that
true.
is another silo.
Right.
I do a live streaming music show on Wednesdays, and people stay up. I'm amazed. Like Netherlands, UK, like it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We do one show, and so people make requests from, essentially they tweet a YouTube link with a hashtag. All I do is follow the hashtag. I click on the YouTube link and I play their request, and then everyone listening votes. And if they don't like the song, then I stop the song. So it's called Song Request Cage Match. So it's like, bring your song in, see if it gets beat up or not. And so in Australia, someone requested something, and there was another Australian who was also on, and the two of them are going back and forth about the song, and they're going on and on and on about it. And I'm like, I've never heard of this song. I have no idea who this guy is. And they're like, oh, it was everywhere. And that's what I mean. Like those little tiny silos of, you know, it's like the people who are really into Game of Thrones, the people who are really into one particular comic book that nobody else, you know, and if you're not into it, you don't know about it. I was at a barbecue and some guy walked up to me. He's like, hey, do you watch Game of Thrones? I was like, no. All right, I can't talk to you. Do you watch Game of Thrones? And I'm like, I'm not going to feel bad because he wanted to find somebody to get all excited about the finale with, but that's those silos. So when somebody says, hey, have you ever seen this Vampire Mob thing? What the hell is Vampire Mob? This thing, just watch it. It's hard to explain. That's them telling somebody else about your work. That's them saying, I like this. I think you might like this. That is the best marketing in the world. And you can't make that happen. You can't force that to happen. You can't just show up and crowdfund and make that happen. And you also can't show up and crowdfund and then never crowdfund again and disappear. Whoosh. Seen that. I was looking up a documentary and I tripped over some segments of it on like Vimeo, and I went back to their Twitter, and their Twitter literally was, we've reached our goal. And there was one more tweet and they never tweeted again. And I was like, wow, that is some hardcore opportunistic crowdfunding, because you're not even going to say anything past we hit the goal, we're out.
Did they make the film?
It's not out. Parts of it are out. It's been too long. I'm guilty of that myself with one of my crowdfunding things, so maybe something went wrong. But yeah, that's bad filmmaking. That may not be actually shooting, but if you are going to crowdfund and then stop talking the day you make your goal or the day after you make your goal, you're doing it wrong. You need to keep talking to those people forever, because then it's going to come out. Then you're going to do something else. And I've talked to someone who is a big supporter of mine, who has contributed to everything I've ever crowdfunded for. And she told me that of a couple of people who I know online, who she had contributed to, and she said, you know, I never got any of my perks, ever, from any of those projects. You're the only project that I've always got my perks from. And I'm like, really? And she said, yeah, I don't want to, say anything, but they show up and ask for more money and they didn't give me the perk from the last one. That's bad filmmaking. Sorry, because you're doing it to make films. And if you're crowdfunding and then you do that, you're screwing over your audience. You're not authentic. You're ingenuine. You're exploiting people. You're taking advantage, and you're an asshole.